theories. They get about, don't they? Some of them are good, some end up being correct, and others get, well, a bit funny or hopeful. Hey folks, MasakoX here. So today, we thought we would be a little bit meta when it comes to thinking about Dragon Ball and turn to the world of the fandom, so as to see what kind of ideas come about from those that really hold a huge place for the show in their heart. Yes, you guessed it, it's the world of fan theories. You guys probably know that we produce a lot of them ourselves on this channel, and while we usually try to base these ideas at least in the cultural context of Dragon Ball, we do fully admit that every once in a while, every fan theorist can go a little bit too far. I'm not ashamed to admit that some of our ideas are quite wacky, even though we try our best to keep them grounded in the world that was actually set up by Akira Toriyama. I mean, it can't hurt to speculate, but it can also not hurt to admit when you are wrong, and then learn from that. This particular video has been inspired by a certain video made by Geekdom, reacting to the theory which proposed that Goten is Goku's reincarnation. Yeah, that's a new one. We all thought Goku Black one day was a future Goten, seeking revenge for being too much like his daddy or something. That was a thing. And even though the idea of Goten being a reincarnation of his father is actually kind of sweet, it's poetic in relation to the Cell games, it doesn't really seem right for the series itself. And on top of that, it makes Goten even less unique. Oh, so does that mean now he's basically 100% his father? Way to go. So today we are topping ourselves, taking a step forward and checking 3 fan questions that might have easier answers that we are willing to admit. And to be fair in all of this, I'm also going to include one of my own that we admit got a little bit too over the top itself and wasn't what we got at all. I'm going to lump myself into this too, so I'm being fair. Let's go. Number 1. Why haven't we seen Vegeta's mother? Ah yes, one of the biggest questions in terms of Vegeta's family. It's all very well and good that we know about King Vegeta, and thanks to the Broly movie, we now know more about Saiyan society, and that it actually was quite well run, and had a diverse range of jobs. Saiyan engineers, anyone? We even got the idea that our Vegeta would have been the 4th king in his line, so that was pretty nifty. However, nothing has really been said about the identity of Vegeta's mother, the Saiyan Queen. Sure, we had that with Goku's mother too. For 20 years, we had no idea about her. That is until Gine shows up. It's kind of cool, I can actually slide one of those into a discussion. So, to fill in the gap, us fans have done so. We have our own Queen Cassava in the Bardock The Believable What If, and Dragon Ball Multiverse has its Queen Hanasia. But do you know what is the only official mention of Vegeta's mother so far? Well this. About the age of 731, the Saiyans develop an amicable relationship with Freeza, and they begin trading land. King Vegeta takes a queen. Wow, they can't even give us a concrete year. Somewhere in 731? Not sure. It's only the royal wedding of King Vegeta, I mean, it's nothing special. This particular excerpt comes from the translation of Daizenshu 7's chronological table of the Dragon Ball world. It's quite a fascinating timeline circa the 1990s, which plots that information as neatly as possible about what happened before age 750, when the original Dragon Ball series started. Now before you say it, yes, things do change, and especially with the 2018 Broly movie. Now okay, we know the first part of this excerpt is retcon, but what about the second part? The bit about Vegeta taking a queen. How has this not been mentioned? Now, don't be scared guys, we don't want to suggest in the slightest that our Vegeta is a clone. Even though Saiyans in that time did dabble with former Tuffle and now Frieza technology, I don't think that they would ever resort to simply cloning a Saiyan, one of their own. Their pride wouldn't allow it. Unlike quite possibly Frieza, as we know that his mother might not exist, as alluded to by Toriyama. That seems a little more viable. But it is weird that we haven't seen her around the king in the Broly movie. This would have been the perfect opportunity to provide some clarity to the fandom about this fact, and generate even more hype. Could you imagine the videos that would have sprouted out about the identity of the queen finally being confirmed? You wouldn't even have to give her a name, just her being there would be enough. Think of the free advertising potential. But I feel that her omission might be down to the main elephant in the room when it comes to the writing of Dragon Ball. We know quite well about Toriyama's troubled relationship with writing female characters. He's not that good at writing them, unless they are permutations of launch, but he did include Gine in the movie, like I said, you know, something. Wouldn't it be fitting to introduce both mothers then? It's so strange. Well, our best guess is that maybe the movie staff didn't want to introduce too many characters. Okay, that would be pretty reasonable. We did get a lot of characters here, including the now infamous Beats, and to have too many Saiyans in the first 30 minutes who then go away again would be a little excessive, to be fair. Or perhaps we're maybe facing another retcon soon. From what we've seen about the Saiyan society, as well as the fact that Vegeta doesn't mention his mother at all in any official source whatsoever, we can certainly think about a few options. First, Vegeta's mother died pretty early on, when Vegeta and Tarbell were very little, and in a very Saiyan-like fashion, wasn't the one looking after her children actively. It was pretty common back in the day for royal courts for there to be a nurse or nanny or some kind of other attendant to look after children directly. So it would be fair to speculate that this would be the case here. Vegeta's queen would be window dressing for King Vegeta and have a minor role in her offspring's upbringing, hence why the prince wouldn't hold much memory or even regard for his maligned parent. The other option is, while both Vegeta and Tarbell had mothers, yes, different mothers, there was no queen per se. Just because King Vegeta had sired 2 boys doesn't mean he would formally marry. Saiyan relationships aren't as traditional as what you might think. While Saiyan society doesn't discriminate gender roles and is fairly equitable for what they do, it feels to us like the partner of the current ruling king or queen is not considered royalty themselves, more like they were a convenience for the other. Moreover, they might not be partnered in a literal sense, but just used as a genetic sample to give the future generation of rulers the best possible potential. In other words, one lucky Saiyan woman was chosen to provide her material in order for the king to nurse a powerful son. It may be an honor to them, but I can imagine that discretion was advised. You wouldn't want the identity of the queen to be found out, or else it would start something potentially, or attract too much attention or tyranny from jealous rejects perhaps. Or maybe they were given a reward discreetly. Perhaps they were elevated to elite status, free from scrutiny. And possibly maybe they could have died during a mission, which caused King Vegeta to find a new mother for Tarbell. Yeah, repeating the process. But that time around, it didn't work that well as we now know. Tarbell isn't all that powerful, nor does he have the natural Saiyan drive hardwired in. That would explain the power discrepancies between him and Vegeta, though the easier explanation would be that Tarbell, as Scar would put, as in the shallow end of the gene pool. Oh, okay, that was supposed to be simple, but okay, sum things up. There was no queen. King Vegeta probably found a genetic sample from a female Saiyan that supposedly fit his criteria, and whoever is Vegeta and Tarbell's biological mother had no hand in raising them, making her unimportant to the story, and they most likely perished in the destruction of the planet anyway. They're certainly much less important than Guinea, that's for sure. She's really important to us. Number 2, the name of Friezas Clan. The age-long question, right? Things we have mulled over for decades. What are the people of Freezy Pop's world called? You would think that they would have a name or some kind of a clue to where they evolved from, if Frieza and King Cold are mutants, by the way. It's so weird that there is no inkling of their genus. They've been with us for so long. We have seen 3 of them in official canon, and even more in supplemental media. We can even play as them in Xenoverse and the Super Dragon Ball Heroes series, but what are they called? Oh, according to the official makers, that's too much for us to handle apparently. We also know that King Cold and Frieza are special cases though, as they appear to be mutants of their species. So not all of them may resemble them entirely. Either they look visibly different or in terms of their mannerisms and power output. They may vary considerably, and again, it's not really been touched upon fully. We really don't know that any other members survived in the main timeline, as it hasn't been touched upon. That's a broken record, surprise, surprise. The only one we do know about is Frost, and he's from another universe, and I doubt he would refer to his race as the Freeza race. I mean, especially after being conned by the guy. For all we know, it could be, Frost race? There have been some attempts to give names to these people from fans and the different dubs across time. There's the Frost Demons, the Arcosians, but those names have too much of a fanficky ring to them. They don't sound right for Dragon Ball, if you know what I mean. But what if in Universe 7 the race's real name is Freeza Race? When you stop to ponder on this, it's not all that crazy. If Frieza and his father were so pompous to name their force after themselves, who's to say they wouldn't name their kind after themselves too, to show that they were superior and the pinnacle of their beings? Okay, what was it called before Frieza was born? Okay, Cold Race. There. Do you see the pattern we're going for? Much like the Frieza and Cold Force, the species itself might be defined by its current ruler. Would it be unfitting for megalomaniacs such as King Cold and Frieza to simply force people to call their species by their ideal name? As for what Frost calls his species for real, well, we have to ask him someday, eh? I'm sure that we haven't seen the last of him. Think of all the fanservice opportunities if you put him and Frieza back together for round 2. Number 3. What really happened to the 6 missing universes? Well, from what we know, Zeno erased them during a tantrum, plain and simple. Moving on. Right? Well, not quite. You see, this statement, much like Zeno's inconsistent portrayal in the anime, has always been pretty weird to us. Zeno is not someone who even gives a hint of actually losing his temper. The closest that we've got is him calmly acting out his actions when erasing wrongly Trunks' reality. He didn't seem all that angry or petulant, just a deity doing his job, quite bluntly in fact. He can have that childlike glee, that's true, but the way he erased future Trunks' timeline was just too cold and clinical. What we meant was that his actions seemed more emotionless and calculated rather than what we've been told time and time again that, oh, he's just completely unpredictable, about to riot. Additionally, we learned that the whole universal erasure dealie was merely a test for mortals. He wasn't actually going to erase them, and to this day we are quite unsure if it was Zeno or even the GP pulling the strings about that. Our money is on the GP, by the way, due to his fondness for mortals. So what did those 6 universes do to subject themselves to the wrath of Zeno? Maybe they never existed in the first place. Maybe it is just cautionary tale used to keep the gods in check. But Masako! In the manga, the GP clearly asked Zeno if they decided to reduce the number again. Yeah, that's true, but the motivations behind the tournament in this scene also seem quite different from the explanations our heroes were given after the event. But the Zenos and GP do have an audience for that conversation, as they are being watched by Zeno's attendants. And you know the whole thing about what the butler saw, which may mean that they are being tricked into believing that the plan is to actually erase those universes. We don't know if these two were actually around during the last purge. So all these talks about reducing the universe numbers might just be an old fairy tale to make Zeno appear more scary. Then again, apparently there was also that all-universe hide-and-seek tournament that was cancelled due to Beerus falling asleep in his hiding place, which apparently infuriated Zeno and caused him to be calmed down by other 11 destroyers. And that a reason that makes the other gods hold a grudge against Beerus, so maybe we were lucky enough to never see that tantrum. Number 4. Where is Zalama? Now this one's mine. Back in 2018, I was fascinated to see how the tournament could end, and into the idea of Zalama, a being that many considered to be the first ever Namekian, or what we know to be Namekian. All of those slug people are descended from him, including King Piccolo, and he is supposedly the person in charge of full-on creation of the multiverse. The maker of the Super Dragon Balls, he had mysteriously disappeared long ago, and has never been seen since. His orbs are the only connection left of him in this reality. He was meant to be a part, apparently, of the trilogy of deities that ran the multiverse. Zeno is the lead destroyer and eraser, the GP and angels in charge of preservation, and then Zalama in charge of creation. What happened? Well, my theory was that Zeno had something to do with his erasure, or containment, or omission in a separate dimension to remove him. Okay, sounds tame initially, but here's where the theory gets bonkers. Ultra Instinct, that power, was only a means to channel Zalama's energy into Goku, and use him as a vessel, since his consciousness of Goku is subdued at the time. This could have been the gateway for Zalama's essence to return, and he be reunited with Super Shenron, and then enact his revenge on Zeno for daring to entomb him for eons. It's pretty grandiose, and wouldn't you believe it? It was wrong. We got none of that. Ultra Instinct is just another power-up. Zeno isn't all that smart, and Zalama has never been mentioned past Zuno's name drop a long time ago in front of Bulma. Super Shenron is just a freaking big dragon. It's far simpler than we thought, and that is something to remember. Dragon Ball isn't all that intricate. So if you are going to be making big theories about this series, do try to keep them basic and minimal so as to actually have them feel authentic. I've learnt that myself, and I hope that you do too. So what do you folks think? Do these fan theories feel decent despite them being a little too much like wishful thinking? Do you have theories of your own? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!